Hey guys, what is going on? I'm back with another video, which means it must be Friday, my dudes. So this video is going to be quite a lot, quite full on. I'm going to be covering a lot of bases. I'm going to leave kind of timestamps in the description so you can jump to any bits you might be particularly interested in. So I'm going to be covering the Legion, my overview of Legion, how I felt it went, the good, the bad, the ugly, my BFA expectations. So how I think BFA is going to go, or things I'd kind of like to see in BFA to kind of make it a successful expansion. My overview for Legion Feral, how I think we performed in Legion, and then lastly, I want to cover BFA Feral, an overview of that, how I think it could be improved. We're only a couple months away from release now, so it really is crunch time in terms of content. Like stuff that's not in the game, if it's not in there now, like this is probably pretty much ready to ship. But there is still time to kind of maybe squeeze in a change or two. If there's some public outcry, or if Blizzard maybe just snag up a good idea. So I think it's important to still talk about expectations for BFA with Feral Druid. Obviously, a lot of you may not be interested in Feral Druid, in which case just go ahead and skip to, that's going to be the last bit of the video. So anyone that isn't interested in Feral can just leave that bit out. Okay, so I just wanted to start this one off by just letting you guys know that I have Twitter. So definitely check that out. I'm going to leave a link to it somewhere on screen so that you can check me out on Twitter, follow me so that you can have updates just on the newest uploads of my YouTube channel, as well as anything I think might be kind of important for you to keep up on. So any MMO champ news, any Wowhead news, any like YouTubers that I think have, come up with some real good videos. Most of the time, a lot of it relates to Feral Druid, but sometimes there's a few things in there that can kind of relate to all of us. And within that, I can also include my stream times. So I'm going to start streaming a lot more regularly now. I'm trying to get a schedule in place. My schedule is currently quite busy, so I'm trying to find time for that. It's normally probably going to be like a Friday evening, or a Saturday, and like an all-day Saturday. Probably just do like 12-hour session on a Saturday. Definitely follow me on Twitter for that. Check that out, and follow my Twitch as well. I'm gonna plug that as well. Should be there, right there. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So, my overview for Legion. Starting off with the good. I think the pace of Legion was exceptional. We came off the bat off of WoD, Warlords of Draenor, and that was atrocious. I think Hellfire Citadel, the last raid, was like 15 months. 15 months, Blizzard. You could have a kid and a half in that time. A kid and a half. And a bit. So the pacing of Legion was really, really good. There was always, a raid not far off the horizon. So, by the time, especially with Titan Forging and Wolf Forging, by the time you actually got your best in slot gear, or, any good, decent legendaries, the next raid was already releasing. So that's really, really cool. I was really happy with the pace of Legion. World quests were really cool, a really good concept. It definitely was a lot better than the daily grind of like going to a quest hub and just having to kind of like plug away at the same quest over and over and over again with no kind of variability. So world quests were really cool. Yeah, they're pretty much the same thing, but it at least kept it fresh. You kind of knew what you were going for. You knew what reward you were going to get from the get-go, not wasting anyone's time. August was disappointing. I'm just gonna say it. It was just terrible. It was. They had, Blizzard had such a good opportunity here to really make a brand new, exciting zone. We were leaving Azeroth. And not just to go to Outland. Like this was gonna be a legit like new world no one had ever been to before. It was except for those lore nerds that like read the comics and shit like that. We're not doing that. We're just gonna skip through the cinematic on release, okay? Um, So August was disappointing because it was just World Quest 2.0. It was literally the same thing, but just more green and more demons. So I mean, it would have been interesting to maybe see like a the Gates of Anchorage or an Isle of Quel Danas kind of like event where you slowly like push the forces of Argus back or whatever, and you kind of unlock part of the zone over time. You kind of get a sense of kind of realm progression. That would have been really cool, but alas, it is what it is. And Mythic Plus. Now that is an amazing, amazing kind of input into Legion, and into the game as a whole, because it's carrying on through to BFA. Mythic Plus is amazing. It spawned the MDI, which is like just fresh content, because currently you have two choices if you want to watch World of Warcraft content. You've got PvP, which literally 4 people care about, and 3 of those people are actually playing in that arena 3v3. So it's just their mom watching them. Okay? Those are the only people that care about PvP. Or you have ASMONGOLD, God bless him, farming transmog and faking excitement when he gets a held and offhand drop on his warrior. Okay? Now I love ASMONGOLD. I'm gonna say it. I love ASMONGOLD. Who doesn't love 4-year-old pizza on their desk midstream? But it comes down to something when he is the top viewed streamer doing transmog runs on an MMORPG, like the biggest, most acclaimed MMO there has ever been. And those are your two choices of WoW content. It's just sad. So the MDI is amazing. I love it. Really hoping it's going to improve as time goes by, and we can just start to see what kind of what they can do with it. It seems to really be picking up steam. I really love the presenters. Shout out to my boy Rich Campbell. Definitely follow him on Twitter as well. I'm gonna maybe throw that up. Maybe. So moving on to the bad. What didn't I like about Legion? Well, I like to call this a little thing more mornings. It's spelt like this, which is kind of a little bit of a pun. It's a little bit of fun for any wordsmiths out there. Might enjoy that. More mornings. This was me and a couple of my buddies, a couple of my dudes, and we would stay up all night until 8 a.m. just running more of Souls, more of Souls, more of Souls, more of Souls. Just for the AP, maybe one of those juicy trinkets, whatever it was called, and you just farm AP. That was terrible. That was a terrible feeling. You couldn't play any ults. You could barely play a second or third spec because of the AP requirement. It was just stupid. It wasn't ult friendly at all. It was just stupid. The next big thing was legendaries. It didn't feel rewarding. If there were 12 possible legendaries for your spec or whatever, and you got unlucky and you didn't get your best in slot legendary till 5th, 6th, 7th onward, you just couldn't play. You couldn't play the game because there was it changed your rotation that much, or allowed for so much kind of damage if you're a DPS player, obviously, that if you didn't have those best in slots, you couldn't compete. There was no way you were going to hit, orange percentile logs, and that's all we care about in this game. So it was just really frustrating. So when you would finally get a legendary, it didn't feel like, oh my god, awesome. It felt like, yeah, finally, good. Yeah, I deserve that, So it just wasn't a good feeling. So they could have done it a little bit differently. And oh my god, the plague that was Raider IO. Holy Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Raider IO. That was just a plague. If you didn't have a Raider IO score, then you couldn't do high Mythic Plus. And if you couldn't do high Mythic Plus, then you couldn't get a good Raider IO score. It was like rich people telling poor people that the way to not be poor is to stop being poor. It just doesn't make any sense. So Raider IO was just terrible. And I have a 3.1k score, and I still get declined from 18s as a feral druid. It's absolutely disgusting. It's just baffling. So Raider IO, I don't know, there needs to be a better way to kind of tell someone's ability without just looking at their Raider IO score. I don't know what's gonna happen, or the Raider IO just needs to get better. All right, guys. Now that is going to bring me to the next segment of the video, which is going to be my expectations for BFA or the things I'd like to see. Going into BFA, it's going to be Legion 2.0. It's pretty much all the same systems, just a little bit more streamlined and with a little bit like, a year and a half, 2 years experience of what Legion did well. So they've already removed legendaries, which I think was a correct step. They've given us some stupid necklace, which I think is okay because at least it kind of transverses those kind of not being able to play an alternative spec issues that legendaries had. And I mean, I think I still have like one more legendary to get on my druid, and I've mained him since the beginning of Legion. So that's telling you whether, that there are issues. So, you know, the new Azerite Gear, that's okay. I'll talk about it a little bit later on in the video. I want to kind of start off with World Quest, because this for me, this is going to be what, when you start BFA, you're going to slowly unlock the raid and slowly unlock Mythic Plus. That the main point in the initial stage of BFA is going to be World Quest. And if they're not good, if you can't kind of trap people's attention just with that initial level of gameplay, then you're not gonna retain them by the time that Mythic Plus and raids do come out. And maybe you will to begin with, but after a few months it will just drop off again. Well, it has the potential to drop off again because people will probably just be like, "Oh my God, this is just Legion 2.0. I'm just doing more world quests, the same old thing. Like, get me out. I want out." So that's understandable. So my kind of suggestion for that is make world quests um, relevant and rewarding continuously throughout the expansion. Don't cap them at like, 8 EIM level like it is currently. Kind of allow them. So right now, world quests I think are dropping like 280 to like 300 item level depending on the rarity of the quest. And so, like, to be able to enter a heroic right now in BFA, you need to be 305 IM level. Okay, so that's how they've like kind of descaled the item level in BFA. So, I want that to kind of be retained. I don't want them to cap World Quest at like 280 IM level. I want that to follow through, maybe go up to like 380 or 400 or 450, depends how high the item level is going to go, depending on the raid tiers. But just kind of make it relevant. Um, Next, I mean, world quests are just like solo content in an MMO, and that's just boring as hell. Like, if that's your main level of content, especially for people that don't want to raid, that maybe just do LFR a little bit, like world quests are just gonna be, you're just gonna get bored of them. I war mode or yeah, war mode, I think it is. That might make things a little bit different for people that do kind of enjoy world PvP, but for the majority of people, like a lot of people don't like to PvP at all. And I get that. So world quests are just going to be a little bit like same old, same old. So I would kind of suggest maybe like an Isle of Quel'Danas or like Hyjal's Daily Hub or the opening of um, the gates, the Scarab gates in Silithus. Uh, that like sense of community that you are contributing to something. I mean, there are people like Esfand and like Stay Safe, the guys doing Classic Cast. They've really presented it well with that kind of sense of community, that kind of scale of you could give, in classic WoW, you could give 20 linen cloth to, towards this war effort, towards this opening of the gates of Anchorage. You felt important. You felt like you were doing something. And I think the game's kind of lost that. And I think World Quest would be a really good way to kind of implement this new kind of system of like a sense of community within the game where like you need to unlock series of world quests or like parts of the zone or something that as a community you could come towards like building together. I think that would just be really, really interesting, and they have the ability to do it. They've shown us, Blizzard have shown us countless times and countless expansions that they can do that, and for the most part it seems to do well. One of my fondest memories in WoW is Isle of Quel'Danas, or like remembering back to the Hyjal like daily hub where like the zone changed as you progress through it, and it just felt really, really kind of really cool. It felt like this world, this MMO experience was kind of like progressing with you, which just kind of you felt like you were getting stronger, which was really kind of important in an MMO. So this would kind of really help with the content drip So like if you're unlocking, if you have access to everything all at once, like if you give a little fat kid a whole chocolate cake, they're just gonna eat the whole goddamn cake, and then that's it, that's done, there's no more cake, and they're gonna be crying at you because they want more cake, right? Whereas if you give them a little bit, a little piece at a time, a little bite off, a piece of cake, then they're gonna kind of just have a slow kind of slow consumption of it. They're gonna have a nice kind of like uh build up. So it allows the content to kind of live on a lot longer if you release it in slower stages, like with unlocking these world events where, they're kind of time gated and progression gated with the community. Um, this could also incorporate allied races, where a lot of times, like, oh, okay, well, we've got an allied race we want to implement, but how do we kind of go about it? And this would be a really good way of like, oh, you're progressing through a zone, you're assisting this faction or whatever it may be, and as time goes by, over the days, the weeks, the months, kind of you unlock the reputation with them, you improve your standing with them, and eventually kind of like you've completed that segment of the zone, and that allied race is kind of unlocked to you. You've earned the NPC's trust, So that would be really kind of an interesting concept potentially. Um, I also wanted to mention Azerite Gear. Now, I think Azerite Gear is a cool system. I think it's interesting. I think it could kind of go either way, potentially like the legendaries did, but it could be really good for the game. We just gotta kind of have to wait and see how it plays out. The issue is that like right now on beta, if you get a piece of gear. So I was leveling. I got Azerite pieces from doing from quests and from like zone completion quests, right? But now I'll be doing normal dungeons at level 120, and I don't have enough Azerite um traits or enough Azerite power in my Heart of Azeroth necklace to be able to use the traits of the normal level gear. So like I'll get a piece, like I've had a piece that's like a 35 item level Azerite upgrade with like new traits that are better, but I can't use it because I can't actually unlock the traits because I don't have enough Azerite power for a normal piece of gear. Like not heroic, not mythic, that I can understand, but like to even get normal, and then this kind of goes hand in hand with how they're splitting the content. So content's going to be split with, if you want gear, you go do dungeons. You go spam dungeons until you get the gear. But if you want to have the Azerite power to be able to use those pieces of gear, you have to go do island expeditions or world quests, because those are going to be the best way to get AP or Azerite power. They're going to be the best way to get that. So you have to split your time between, okay, well, do I want to get the gear and become more powerful? Or do I want to get a lot of Azerite power so that when I do get that gear, I can actually use it to its full potential? So it just feels really bad at the minute with getting a 35 item level upgrade, the same way it is on live. If you get a Time Forge piece of gear, you think, oh, it's upgraded like, 10, 20, 30, 40 item levels, especially if you've got like an Arcano crystal, where it could be like a 60 item level difference, and a piece of gear still isn't better than an Arcano crystal. Like, it's just not rewarding. An upgrade should be an upgrade. If something is 10 item levels better, it should be an upgrade. Like, period. That should just be how the game works, okay? Because otherwise, what is the point of getting gear? It's just a lottery, It's just stupid. So, I think the Azerite gear could be improved slightly, but that will probably be scaled in beta, so we'll see how that kind of works. Okay, guys, now if you have no interest at all in Feral Druid, then I probably would just stop watching now. And thanks very much. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Twitch. But anyone that is interested in Feral Druid, definitely keep watching, because I'm going to go kind of into a review of how I think they've done this expansion and my expectations for BFA. Now, for anyone still watching, still interested in Feral Druid, I just kind of wanted to go through a few, points of how I felt Feral did in Legion and the things that could be improved upon going into BFA. So the first thing is, what the hell was that stigma with Mythic Plus? I mean, they were so incredibly difficult to join in the early stages of Legion. I mean, even now, like I've got a 3.1k score. I still struggle to get into Mythic Plus. Like I've done like 23 like plus 23 Mythic Plus, and I can still struggle to get into Mythic Plus. It's just ridiculous, right? That was just a stigma against Feral Druid. I don't understand what it was. Like, Brutal Slash was bad. We had bad AoE to begin with. That's fine, okay? But as things improved, like, Brutal Slash was broken. I would beat most classes. The only way I could get beaten is if I was in a high enough key that like Warlocks or Balanced Druids actually like had enough time to put the damage in. But in terms of burst, I mean, if things were just dying, Feral was king, right? Or at least for me, it felt like it was. So the stigma was just really bad. So there's just a really bad environment in the game where people will kind of just like method with Coven, right? So they did Coven for the first time, and everyone noticed that they didn't have any melee classes in their raid. So everyone immediately was like, "Oh, well, I guess if Method aren't doing it, then we shouldn't do it." So suddenly everyone stopped inviting melee to Coven, or reduced heavily the amount of melee they had. Like if I actually look at my Coven logs, I got a 90. I'm gonna throw it up on screen as well, somewhere over here, I think. I'm gonna throw it up on screen. So this is my Mythic Coven kill. I think it's my second Coven kill, and I beat two Warlocks, which I think probably died, but I mean that's their fault. And I only lost to a Balanced Druid by like this much. I think it's like 30 million I lost by, which is insane. And then the Warlock wasn't even that high above me. So like Feral is not that bad. There was just some stupid stigma, and I don't understand it. I hate it. But Feral PvP was good, apparently. It was okay. I did some more PvP.
Greymaine's forces hold this Warden
Yeah,
Tower.
I guess. Moving on basically then to Battle for Azeroth, and the things I kind of like to see, or the position I'd like to see Feral in. I mean, it seems like it's in a pretty good spot. I've done a couple of videos now on the state of Feral, how it's looking, and it looks good, okay? The only clunky thing is the AoE, because Brutal Slash has been heavily nerfed, and so it's just not an effective AoE, I feel, to how it was, and it's not going to be competitive going into Mythic Plus. There are going to be classes that far surpass us, like completely. We're going to have the same stigma again, and it's just going to be awful to play Feral in Mythic Plus. So you kind of have two options. You either play Balanced Druid, which is just like a big no-no, or you stick with Feral and you just hope that Blizzard actually fix it. So I kind of had some suggestions for how I think Feral could potentially be improved. Now, looking at it, like Blood Scent is a terrible talent. It's passive, it's boring, it's pretty much just reforging. Okay, it's reforging 2.0. It's just not interesting. So my kind of suggestion, and I posted this in MMO Champ. I posted this in MMO Champ, where and you can go in and you can go back and look at the thread if you want. It got like 2 comments, a couple views. So like I don't know, maybe people liked it, maybe they didn't. But I made a suggestion of removing Blood Scent from the game because it's just not fun, and putting Feral Frenzy in its place, because Feral Frenzy is good, but the way the kind of sequence of timings, it's just like it's kind of clunky. It's just not fluid. So like it's on a 45-second cooldown, so it doesn't sync up with your Tiger's Fury, which is like a lot of people could be like, "Oh, that's fine. Your cooldowns don't always need to sync. You don't just need to press every cooldown together." And that's, yeah, okay, I guess, but like that's just how it's worked. So it just doesn't feel enjoyable because you feel like you should be able to sync them up, but you can't, and you want to. So either leave it how it is, Blizzard, and this is how you want the game to be, or I would suggest putting Feral Frenzy in Blood Scent's place. So moving it from a tier, like a final tier, to a tier 1 talent, because it would just function so much better if you just kind of reduce Feral Frenzy down from like the 5 combo point build I think it is on now, down to like 3 combo points. So it kind of reduces its effect, like reduce the damage a little bit, reduce the cooldown to 30 seconds, and reduce the combo point generation to like 3. It's kind of resemble an Ashamane's Frenzy. They even have the same name, so it works. It's fine. Kind of just condense it down into like a little bit less effective, but a pretty good tier 1 talent. And so this would kind of be a competitive choice, but you would still want to take Predator for AoE, and you could still take Moonfire for a viable, like, single target, maybe even a nice slight cleave option. So, like, it wouldn't be the favored talent 9 times out of 10, but it would definitely serve its place, which I think is good for talents. You don't just want to like a cookie cutter, this is the best all the time, you know? Um, Next, I would probably change. So, like, the AoE I mentioned is really clunky with Brutal Slash, and so I would kind of suggest having, like, because what you want to do is you want to be AoEing, right? You get into like a big mob pool, you tank pulls like 10 mobs, and like you got a Warlock and a Balanced Druid and you're all trying to compete to like just completely like destroy the mobs as quickly as possible, and you spamming your brutal slash button, right? They've already gotten rid of Shadow Thrash, which I think is just absolutely disgusting. That's a real rip moment right there. And so you spamming your brutal slash button, but then it's like, oh, well, something's died, and I want to be able to press. I've had a reset on Tiger's Fury, so I want to press that because I want to get my damage increase, and I also want to get enough energy to keep on pressing brutal slash, or even just thrash, right? But because of the GCD, you have to make that decision of, well, do I keep AoEing because everything's going to be dead really, really quick? Or do I stop and get Tiger's Fury because I need more energy? And so you have to make this real, like, dilemma decision. And it's just, maybe that's the design, but it doesn't feel good. If every other class is operating like that, which they kind of are, then I guess it's okay. But it's just not. It's going to take some getting used to. So I would kind of instead put Predator, like leave Predator how it is, but just make it so every time it's proc, so every time a mob dies that would trigger a Predator proc, it does that, but you also get a flat just like 10 energy without pressing Tiger's Fury, without refreshing it or anything. And so you kind of are getting passive energy like quite quickly as things are dying, but it means that you can keep AoEing and only really have to refresh your Tiger's Fury if you want the damage increase, right? So I think that would be quite interesting. But maybe a little bit overpowered. So it's just a suggestion. And the last thing is, okay, well then what do we do with the spot that Feral Frenzy had? And that I would put in a Lady and the Child Mimic. But instead of it affecting Moonfire, it would affect Rake. So basically, you could Rake one target, and if there's another target nearby, it will automatically apply a second Rake to that target. So you could basically Rake twice as many targets in half the time in half the energy. Because right now, if you want to like tab target Rake because Brutal Slash is trash, hey, nice rhyme. Then you have to like the energy cost is really really high, so you can't effectively do that. You can probably rake a couple mobs, and then like you have to maybe like get your Savage Roll back up, or like you want to Brutal Slash again, but you need more energy, and it's just doesn't feel nice. So I think that would be quite a cool kind of addition. It would be quite a good talent, but you'd only really want it in like full on AoE. So it wouldn't kind of compete with Blood Talons in terms of a pure single target, or it wouldn't compete with Moment of Clarity in kind of like either an AoE or a single target talent, because that's just universal, that's just nice, and that kind of just applies to just kind of like a nice passive effect. So this Rake Lady and the Child Mimic, I think would be really, really interesting, and it would be competitive, but it wouldn't just be a like, right, okay, I'm locking in that talent, and I'm just leaving that until the end of the expansion, So definitely quite interesting, I think. But that's kind of open up for discussion. Like I said, that forum post is still there, so you can go check it out, or just throw a comment in the comment section. And that, guys, is going to summate this pretty long video. I hope you enjoyed watching. We covered up quite a few bases. Yeah, definitely hit me up in the likes, in the comments, in the Twitters, in the Twitch, everything you got to do. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. Peace.